Very good afternoon to one and all. This is Shanthi Palani from Dr. MGR Education and Research Institute, Maduravoya in Chennai. I am here presenting my paper. My topic is Global Gender Equality and Women Empowerment, a Pathway to Sustainable Development 2030. A Pathway to Sustainable Development 2030. Here, gender equality is a prerequisite for the Sustainable Development 2030. Although we do have a lot of improvement in recent years, but still this gender equality will not be achieved by the year which is targeted as 2030. Half of the population, even though it is made up of women all over the world, but still there is a lack and there is a gap between us. For example, women still earn 23%, that is less than do an average in the global labor. The major challenges, what all we can say is unequal distribution of unpaid care and domestic work, sexual abuse and exploitation, and discrimination in public service. It's a small survey which I have taken. During COVID, nearly 70% of the women, they have taken care both in healthcare and also in social working. Apart from that, if at all, if the current trends, if the current situation happens, what can be the scenario in 2030? A quick recap, it will be estimated nearly 300 years to end child marriage, if now the current scenario that persists, and 286 years to close legal protection gap and discriminatory laws, and of course 140 years to equalize the representation of women in the position of leadership, and also 47 years to achieve equal protection representation in national parliaments. Here, the main objective of the study is to research women's empowerment and gender equality from a global viewpoint. To examine gender equality using Sustainable Development Framework. Here, the Sustainable Development Framework, here it is number 5, gender equality. In India, we have Article 14, that is equality before law and equal protection of law. And all over the nation, the UN has governed us as UDHR, Article 7, that explains about gender equality, that is discrimination. So, nearly 168 countries all over the world, they have governed lot of laws for this gender inequality. Mainly, that is in India, that is Equal Remuneration Act 1976, even in Thailand, just I have seen, it is in Thailand, 2015 Gender Equality Act is there to govern the equality. And to achieve this gender equality, you have to achieve, that is number 1, number 10, number 12 and number 14, there is no poverty. If there is no poverty, only then the women education and the women can come out, right? And moreover, this education, this number 4, the quality education. There is a famous quote, we always says, if a man is educated, an individual is educated, whereas if a woman is educated, the whole nation is educated. So that's the reason in the sustainable development, they have assured gender equality is one of the major prerequisites. In this goal 5 indicators, just we are in 15.4% track. Actually, we are nearly 23.1% far from the track where we have to achieve this. Apart from this, globally, 2.4 million women lack the same economic rights as men. Out of 178 nations, they have a lot of legislative restrictions. In 2019, 1 in 5 women between the age of 20 and 24 got married before turning to 18. Here, I have a data which I have collected for the Sustainable Development Goal all over the world, globally. Here, number 1, to put an end to prejudice against women and girls, that is worldwide in all its manifestations. And number 2 is outlaw all forms of violence, both public and private, And acknowledgement and cherishment, that is unpaid caregiving. The persons, the women who cares, again still they have unpaid, and there's a lot of labor all over the world. And there is less opportunity for the leadership people where the women don't have equal access. And there are certain things that guarantee everyone has to access to sexual and reproductive health and rights. Still in world, in globally, every 3 in 1 women are getting sexually abused, and every 3 in 2 minutes the case is filed all over the world, the data says. And in India, still we can say, we have, sorry to say this, even August 9, we have a case that in PG student who got brutally sexually harassed, a PG student girl there in Calcutta. So these are the traces we can say, even though we talk about the thing, the sustainable development have not yet achieved, we still have a gap, and we have to fill this gap. And so these are the data. The recommendations which you have to take for high priorities for all the sustainable development goals. Out of 17, for each and every one, we have to take this gender equality as a prerequisite. For each and everything, we have to take into account for no poverty, as well as this education, for the level of water, for whatever it is, we have to take it. And the genders that concern should be considered as a cross-cutting issue in the sustainable development implementation process. And increased focus on gender equality, that is much needed here to increase this level and to achieve this 2030, to fill this 23.5% gap. And the conclusion here, this study as our understanding of gender equality as a cross-cutting issue, and on basically I have given 2-3 literature. One is a specific literature that pertaining to the main concerns of gender inequality, that includes access to employment, education and implicity. For employment and education, particularly in India, we have different articles and sections, especially for employment we have. And employment we have the Sexual Harassment Act, we have POSCO Act, we have, and especially after the guidance of Vishaka was the state of Rajasthan, we have a guidance, we got a guidance for how to take care of the women who is working, and whenever there is a sexual harassment, what are to be taken, measures to be taken care. And mainly for the education, both in fundamental rights, directive principle of state policy, as well as the fundamental duties. Our constitution have governed at this education point. And equal pay. We do have in labor a lot of gender equality and the labor. Equal Remuneration Act, we have a separate act in the year 1976 which governs everyone should be paid equally, and that the labor system and should be abolished. As a result, the study offers this equality assessment approaches that suggest that there should not be having a negative influence of targets. This SDGs, that is number 1, poverty, no poverty, number 4, 11, 12 and 14 and 16 are the things are more affected, and these more affected area should have to be come out only if the gender equality should be maintained. And this is a growing enthusiasm among various stakeholders to build collaborative effects that specifically focus on fostering equality. Thank you all for giving this opportunity.